Zachary Ray, Tiffany Ryan, and Madeline Regoli. Did I say that right? Perfect. And we have Mr. Hooks and Mrs. Campo, who are the advisors for the web program here this evening, so we thank them. So if everyone could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Whenever you're ready, we're ready.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you guys very much. Okay, next our mission statement. Bridget?
At Richmond Community Schools, we provide a quality education that empowers students to be successful in a global community.
Thank you. And now we'll have roll call.
Tracy.
Here.
Jeff.
Here.
Andy.
Here.
Dan.
Dan is absent with notice.
Margaret.
Here.
And Chris.
Here.
And I am here. We have a quorum.
Okay. Next is our approval of our agenda. Just for the board, number 12C, that is going to be removed from the agenda this evening. It will come to us at a later date. So at this time, I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is our True Blue moment. This is a moment when we take to recognize great things that are happening within our district. And this evening we have Mrs. Belf, our art teacher at the high school, who is here to honor and recognize scholastic art achievement students.
Along with Mrs. Belf will be Mrs. Davison, the middle school art teacher.
Hi. What's this on? Or do we just talk? Is it on? It doesn't sound like it, does it?
We have the video going right now. These are all the awards that got accepted to the Regional Art Scholastic Show. And I have a few students here right now. I have 4 of them. We had 23 students that were honored with different awards that they received. But as you know, very involved. And so they can't always make it. Scholastic Art Awards have been around for 91 years. It's the longest running, most prestigious competition for teenagers in the United States. Former winners are Truman Capote, Richard Avalon, Andy Warhol, Sylvia Plath, and Robert Redford, and a lot more. Our middle school had 4 pieces that were accepted this year, and that's just a great example of what Ms. Davidson is doing. Their middle school work is also embedded in with the awards here with the high school. The Scholastic Art Award deals with 3 counties. It's St. Clair, Lapeer, and Macomb, so it's a pretty big region. The competition had over 28 pieces of artwork that were entered into the show, and this year we had a whopping 39 pieces accepted, which is really fantastic. There was only 1 school, Lance Cruz, that got 40 pieces accepted. So we are the second in 3 counties, which is it's just amazing. So we've always had a very strong program here, even though this is my first year here, but I've been familiar with it just because I came from another school in Macomb County, and I've always known how strong the program is, and it's really great to be a part of this and to have the support now of the elementary art students and now the middle school, where we have a great program. Jackie brings the kids to me at the high school, and they're very prepared, which is fantastic. There's an estimate of 125 gold keys that were awarded. A gold key is the top in the region. We received 10 of them. They are all pieces that will get move on to New York to get judged for additional possible winnings. There were 100 portfolios that were entered this year, and they only accepted 38 of them, and we had 2 students that got portfolios accepted. A portfolio is 8 pieces of artwork, whether it's photos or combination of photos and drawings and paintings, but it's judged as a unit, as one full piece. So it's a lot harder to get in a portfolio. It's a lot more work to put together, but it's also a little bit higher honor, and those are also going to New York as well. So 12 things are going off to New York from the high school. Oh, what's that? And then we have the 4 students that we have here. Brittany, she was the one that helped make the video.
Stand up.
So all 4 of you guys can quickly stand up. Everybody, go ahead. And thank you. Enjoy the video.
How about if all you guys stand up so everyone that's here can see you? There we go. That's pretty impressive.
I can honestly say these 2 ladies, when you walk into their classroom, inspire artists every day. There is a passion in those classrooms to bring out the best in students, and they believe in all of their students that they have in their classrooms, regardless of their ability level. There's some phenomenal things going on in those classrooms. So I thank you for your hard work for the students of Richmond every day.
Thank you.
So the bar is set for next year, right?
Right. Right, exactly.
That's the only thing I was worried about. And then of course you have to mail those pieces, so I'm like doing that. I think it dropped off this Wednesday for the show.
How exciting.
And the program that the board put back in place, the art, there's going to be great things coming about our elementary art program, because she's doing some phenomenal things. And when they hit the middle school, it's just going to be a great art K-12 program that we have.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Good news.
ladies. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Next is our legislative update. Brian?
I ask that we begin bringing this as a regular occurrence for the board, so that our community and listening audience can hear some of the challenges that we're faced as a district. And I just want to bring up to speed some of the latest things that are going on in Lansing that we have our pulse on, not only in Richmond, but districts across the state. Recently, there was a revenue estimating conference that predicted that the general fund for the state of Michigan is going to have a shortfall of approximately $324 million. I think that's important because the school aid fund has actually a surplus, and there's already conversations with the legislators about fixing this hole in the general fund from the school aid fund. And as advocates for public schools, we've taken a lot of hits over the last several years in educating, the cost of education and what we've had to sacrifice and eliminate. That's top on my radar, because there's no reason that we should be, when the school aid fund, which is specifically for public schools, has a surplus, that money should be designated for public schools. So just as a community, we need to keep that on our radar and contact our legislators and voice what our concerns are. The couple things, in May there will be a ballot initiative going on the board. You may have heard it in December regarding the shuffling of funds to pay for schools and our road repairs. That will be getting much more momentum in the next couple weeks regarding that issue. In the governor's State of the State address that he had proposed last Tuesday, he talked about improving third grade proficiency. And if you remember, in the lame duck session and even in the fall, there was a push to have students that were not proficient on the MEP test, now the MyStep test, to be retained in third grade if they didn't demonstrate a proficiency. Though the governor is his intention or his thought process has changed slightly. Rather than a mandatory retention, it's been more of addressing, providing support for schools to be proactive before it becomes an issue in 3rd grade. And 3rd grade is when our students start taking that MEP test, which is the first time they have a high stakes test, if you will. He's also calling for much more broader standards for all schools, which includes the EAA, the Detroit Public Schools and charters, and he's still pushing for that early warning system that will identify districts in the process of, and there was several categories which would encompass about 1/3 of the state school districts under this early warning system. The 4 people that we want to keep on our radar are the people in charge of our chairs of the Senate and the House Education Committees, as well as those that are on the Appropriations Committee. Senator Sil Pavlov is a Republican. He chairs the Senate Education Committee. Senator Hansen chairs the Senate Appropriations Committee for K-12. Representative Amanda Price from Holland will be chairing the House Education Committee, and Tim Kelly will be chairing the House Appropriations Committee. I say that because the chair of the House Representatives Committee, Amanda Price, she was one of the leading authors of that 3rd grade retention bill that didn't pass in lame duck, so we're expecting that to come back forward as the chair of the committee. So it's just something to keep our eyes on. And most recently, and I think as public schools, we're looking forward to the outcome, the governor signed into law Bill 423, which creates a commission to study the adequate funding of schools. And if you look at school funding across the state, there's a discrepancy among what schools get in inequity. So this commission is due out to have their results in early next year. So,
Thank you.
Can I just have a question? The commission that's being created, who's deciding who's on the commission? Do you know that?
That I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. I haven't
There
read
is,
that information as well, and it would be interesting to me.
Yeah, I don't know where the commission's going to be funded from, other than probably the school aid fund.
Oh, right. Okay.
But I don't know who's on the committee.
Who's on the committee?
Commissioners.
Right, okay.
Thank you. Next, items of interest from members of the board. Does anyone have anything? No? Okay. Go to presentations. School Board Recognition Month. Brian?
January is National School Board Recognition Month, and I don't think or maybe the public does know, the hard work that school board members put into it. It's not just the 2 meetings a month now, it's much more than that, from looking at all the paperwork and the legislative stuff and being on several committees to be advocates for the school district. So tonight, I want to read a proclamation that the governor has put forth honoring our 7 school board members here tonight, as well as school board members across the state of Michigan, and to show our appreciation for what you do and the time you give up from your families for the students of Richmond. So I'm going to read a proclamation to the local school boards in recognition of School Board Appreciation Month. Whereas Michigan is home to more than 600 Board of Educations that work to enrich the lives of students throughout education and directly influence instruction in Michigan's public schools. And whereas Article 8, Section 2 of the Michigan Constitution of 1963 states that providing for the education of Michigan's children is a fundamental duty of state government. And whereas local school board members are exceptional men and women who have committed themselves to this duty by governing school districts and advancing student achievement and in schools and communities for which they serve. And whereas during this month we have joined with the Michigan Association of School Boards, the Michigan Department of Education, local school districts and community organizations to recognize and raise awareness of the countless efforts and contributions of local school boards and school board members throughout the state of Michigan. Therefore, be it resolved, I, Rick Snyder, Governor of Michigan, do hereby proclaim January 2015 as Local School Board Recognition Month of Michigan. And on behalf of the students, staff, I truly thank you for all you do. Personally, you've made the transition here wonderful for me, but it is a great group of 7 individuals who are here for the students of Richmond. So we have a small token of our appreciation for you, so I will give you your certificate. So thank you for your hard work and dedication.
second reading of board policies. Last month, we went through and did our first reading of these policies. So this time around, does anyone have any issues or questions with respect to what we went through during the first reading?
I just want to point out that some of the recommendations regarding changing board to district, you'll notice in blue, I did make those from the first reading. And then the date, we had January 12th, it would be for this date, pending board approval, would be the update date. So those are recommendations that came out of the last meeting.
Anyone? 'Cause if we don't have anything specific, any questions or anything we want to change, then we'll just move forward, and then when we get to that point in the meeting, we can approve them. This would be the time if you have any questions or something you want to add, that's when we would do it. No? Good? Okay. Next is our public comment portion of our meeting. This is the portion if you have something you would like to say to address to the board, we ask you to come up to the podium. You have 3 minutes. If there's a response that you need from us, there are cards up there, correct, Terry? That you can leave your name and telephone number. Would anyone like to speak, Mr. Donato?
My name is Christopher Columbus Donato. I was here last month. Talked a little bit about things that were going on within the school district. But one of the things that I did once I left here, I listened to what you guys had to say and all the things you had to look at regarding all these different policies. And as you review the policies, there's a lot to work on, a lot of things to do. So I went back to try to find out some of the rules and regulations that the kids had to abide by. And earlier in the year, there was an issue regarding planners. Planners weren't given out to the kids this year, and we discussed about being able to use technology and things of that nature. You guys actually eliminated the use of the planners because of technology. And a lot of that technology really isn't in place or hasn't been put in place to use as of yet. But the bigger part of the issue had to do with the student handbook. The planners that were given out actually had the student handbook in it. And if you look through the school website, you look through all the different things that go on, there is nowhere in the district that you can find a student handbook. So as it relates to some of the issues that I talked about, we had no place to go to discuss what would happen, what the ramifications were, because as kids have no handbook. The fact that we eliminated a planner, and then, you know, I was told that we could use our own technology if we wanted to, it was never followed up upon to distribute that through the school district that they could use the technology, and at the same time, student handbooks are not in place. There is nowhere that you can go to get a student handbook that I'm aware of. So I guess I'd just like to know how you get that information now.
I'll agree with you from the perspective of it's not convenient for parents, and that will be changing. The student handbook for the high school is listed under the assistant principal's website. On the right-hand side, it says the 2014-15 handbook, and then right below it, I think it was June, it might have been the May meeting, so forgive me about the dates. When we were on the other side, there was a side-by-side of changes in yellow, the new changes and the old language. That's right below that link. Part of the compliance issue that we're going to be talking about later with the OCR, or in the civil right, is to put that in a central deposit for all families so it's easily accessible. So you don't have to search for it. So it's going to be a link on our website where all the student handbook, course guides, et cetera, will be for parents.
But there's nowhere within the district right now, a general student or a general family cannot look up what's in the student handbook without the information that you just provided.
Correct, because it's listed, off the top of my head, I don't know where it is on the middle school, but I do know it is on the assistant principal's page on the right-hand side at the high school level.
Okay.
I can find the middle school and elementary for you, but I know the high school's there.
Only thing I'm saying is that should be distributed and that should be communicated to the students and the parents because they don't know what to go by.
And those are some of the issues that will be addressed in the compliance plan that we have to submit to the state. So yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name is Felicia Schmidt, and tonight I'm here on behalf of the Richmond Athletic Boosters. I have Margot Van Hope and Barb Gaffney here with me. We just wanted to let you know that we are in support of Mr. Walmsley's plan to make the compliance issue with the locker rooms equal for the girls and the boys that came up earlier this year. We have the funds in place and have come up with a tentative budget to make the changes that are necessary. There wouldn't be any fundraising that would be necessary. They're accessible at this time. We're hoping that if the plan is approved, we can go ahead and start by ordering the things that are necessary to make everything equal and checking that off the list.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
We have a copy of the savings account if you guys need that to show that we have the money.
Thank you. Okay. Next, our consent agenda items, which includes minutes. Terry, do we have any? We don't know. Okay. So the minutes that we have here are acceptable, and so a motion would be in order to approve the minutes and the personnel report.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion?
Yeah, I got one thing. Brian, in the future, if there's a personnel report, I'd like it to be known during the board meeting if there's any trends. We don't need to go into individual specifics, but if there's a loss of teachers or whatever, I'd like to know if there's any trends on why they're leaving. If we can do that.
Okay. I would like to take a minute and introduce Haley Deanna. She is the candidate that's before you to recommend for the elementary counselor. This has been a very long and thorough process, but I think well worth it as an investment for the district. She comes to us with a wealth of knowledge and background that based on the committee that we started with and then the second committee that we've worked together with, I think will meet the needs. In fact, I know it's going to meet the needs of Lee Elementary School. So I'm looking forward to her joining the staff at Lee. Well,
Thank you. Okay, it's been moved and supported. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you and welcome to Kaylee. Next would be a motion to approve the board policies.
I make a motion to approve the board policies as stated.
Support?
Bridget did. I'm sorry. I was just writing.
We can't hear from that end of the table, so speak loudly.
Sorry, I'll talk louder.
Okay, awesome.
Okay. It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, approval of civil rights compliance plan for the Michigan Department of Education. Brian?
In your packet, you'll see three documents. One is the request for board action to approve the plan that's before you. The second document is the actual plan or the template that the state requires us to put into what we're going to and how we're going to, our timeline, etc. This is the document that actually gets sent to the state. They'll review this document. They may send it back and say, okay, we aren't in agreement with something on here, or tweak this, or they want more clarification. So within that, you'll see the different non-compliance items that were found when they came and did our visit. And I want to make sure I'm clear. The cost of some of these items, as you heard from the athletic boosters who are willing to support the compliance for the boys' locker room issue that we have, which is probably the biggest issue. But some of the other costs, like there was some cement that needed to be fixed. It's over 1.5 inches. Some of these items may get charged to the bond if we choose to. From the perspective of, in probably March, we should be finalizing most of the bond projects. In terms of the punch lists are finally getting finished and so forth. We're expecting students to be in our new addition tomorrow. They were moving in stuff today. It's beautiful. But so at some point as a board, we're going to have to sit down and say, okay, these are the funds that were left unspent because things came in under budget, or we were able to do things a little differently for some cost saving, and then prioritize. So some of this stuff may be charged if that's the way the board wants. Some of it may be a general fund. For instance, like the signage out in front of the high school, all that handicap signage is out of compliance. So we're going to have to look at what would that cost. Some of that stuff we can do in-house, with our maintenance or people we have in-house. Some of the stuff, it's going to require a contractor because we don't have the ability to do it in-house. So what I didn't want any of the board members to walk away with this is it's an automatic. Once the plan is, I get the go-ahead that yes, this is the plan, then the next step would be come to the board and say, okay, we may have to figure out how to pay for it. We'll get a better true cost for the locker room as we've been estimating on the high end on a lot of those expenses, and go from there and have to make that decision. The timeline is, if you'll notice, I put November 1st as our end date. That's our target. Though the compliance plan isn't until December, things come up, especially with some of the things that we've dealt with in the bond, and we've had to push things back a little. I wanted to make sure we had enough room that we were in compliance. So outside of the, which is the third document, excuse me, is the locker room scenario. Do you want me to keep going through them, or do you want to ask? Okay.
Keep going.
The locker room scenario, which is actually pictures in the compliance plan, as well as in a memo to the board from me to you. And I tried to give graphic drawings of what that would look like to the best of my capability. I'm not an architect, so I was copying and pasting math, but reconfiguring the current boys' locker room to make it half varsity, half either an officials room or a team meeting room, or it could be used for multi-purposes, but primarily could be officials. That space is comparable to the space where the girls are currently in. And so you'll see in the drawing, which is on the second page, the space gives roughly the square footage. And then the boys varsity and freshman basketball would use the same facilities comparable as the girls varsity, JV and freshman, in terms of the locker room area. The boosters, as mentioned by Mrs. Schmidt, are committed to purchasing the lockers like the boys, so we have an identical locker. So that's not a compliance issue, or potentially could be a compliance issue. I give it to the team, from the high school staff to the boosters. A lot of people have really been thoughtful in terms of, okay, what's the best situation in trying to resolve this. Part of it is we don't want to alienate a lot of the parents that have given time and effort to this, but yet we all recognize there was, it shouldn't have gotten this far. We should have had some point prior that someone would have said, we need to look at both sides so that this board isn't in this position. Because we have a great community who gives a lot to this district, and my concern is, being the new guy, if you will, I want to keep that, continuing that support, because they give a lot to this district. So I'm happy to take any questions you have, or comments, or any consideration.
First we need a motion. If someone is interested in making the motion before we can have any discussion.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the civil rights compliance plan and direct the superintendent to submit this plan for review by the Michigan Department of Education, Office of Career and Technical Education.
Support. Any questions?
Okay. It's been moved and supported. Andy?
Well, I appreciate everyone's efforts to try to find an equitable solution here. But Brian, help me understand, we submit our plan. How do we know that they accept the plan? How long does it take for them to accept it? I certainly don't want to start spending money before someone...
No, we'll receive notice on, once they receive confirmation, within a 2-week window after that, they said we'll receive notice that the plan is good to go, or if they've got questions, follow-up questions. So the plan has to be officially submitted, I think it's February 5th, because it has to be in their hands. My plan is to get this in their hands now, so we can start that 2-week window.
I just don't know what we're trying to say, that one room is 14 by 23 and the other one 14 by 16. I don't know if that's close enough. I just don't know what the parameters are that they can say, hey, that's not close enough, whatever. So.
Well, I have been in contact with the Michigan Department of Education, and when we've been looking at multiple options, I did call on this particular one because that was a little red flag for me. And the addition on the boys area, that additional, like 3 or 4 feet, is really the walkway to get into that space. Where in the girls' locker room, the door opens automatically into the space. So there's that walkway. Without seeing pictures, because I didn't want to send anything or start anything without the board action, you know, in conversations, she didn't think there would be anything at issue, but that could be nothing once they see the plan, and we could be back to square one. So.
And this, obviously, I would assume this current plan is basically what everyone agrees to, or is there dissension from one group that doesn't like the plan, or just?
No, I talked to, because at some of the previous board meetings, there was some conversation about options. I met with both basketball coaches, and in my backup at the one meeting, the girls, forgive me, I can't remember if she's JV or Mrs. Ladd, freshman? Freshman coach was there because the varsity coach could not be there. But the varsity coach and Mr. Presnell had been talking. So I have not met anybody in this plan that has been vocal against it. From the coaches to Mr. Benoit, who has been part of this from the athletic angle, to the boosters. I did have a conversation with Mr. Day, who's next door, with the wrestling. They have their space. You know, he said he'd love new lockers if he get it, but he likes his space. I think for the wrestling, the way it's laid out, it's appropriate because of the way they weigh in and so forth, and they have a room off that locker room to weigh in students. So.
Okay, thanks.
Just from a financial perspective, with the estimate that you have here for the other fixes, not the locker room situation, but the other fixes, it potentially would be possible to have some of that come out of this year, but then next year's budget,
correct.
So it could be split potentially, so correct. The hit wouldn't be all this year.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And some of the fixes, like when you walk into classrooms, there needs to be a 3-foot aisle. That's going to be somewhat challenging in some of our rooms that we assign students to. So when we look at staffing allocations for next year and where rooms are going to be at, we're going to need to look at that. And I'll just use the example of our world language classes in the high school. Their rooms are pretty small, and so some of the concepts are to, when the science labs move out, to allow those classrooms to utilize those rooms so they have larger space so we can get in compliance. And those rooms might be more appropriate for like a resource room or a support class where there's less students in it. So a lot of this will get fixed, definitely with no cost, once we have all the movement and shuffling done with staff and allocations. Not everything, but some. I think our biggest expense is cement work and some of the buzzer systems that are too high or need to be moved closer.
And I guess just a question about that. I mean, because those buzzer systems are relatively new. And so when you ask a contractor about doing that kind of work, I would just assume that they would understand that these important laws would have to be followed when they put them in?
Well, when the visit was here, the ADA regulations came out in, I want to say 2010, 11, but didn't have to be implemented until a certain date. So depending on when the buzzer systems were put in, it could have been in that period where the legal requirements didn't have to make them in compliance.
Okay.
But what makes it on our radar now is we changed doors in the middle school, swipe cards because of the bond project.
Right.
That when you're starting to touch that area, now you need to be in compliance.
You have to.
So that's in essence why it came on the radar, if you will.
Right.
Anybody else?
No, I just thank you, Brian, for all the extra work that I know that it's taken to make this all, this proposal happen. But I think it's important. You know, if we are guaranteeing learning for all students, that means accessibility in all ways for all students. And so it just feels like it's important work for us to do. So thanks for that.
I just have to close from this angle is though I'd love to take credit for it, it was really the team effort. I mean, there was a lot of people involved. But as going forward, we really need to look at things from a universal design practice, because that's not only what happens in classrooms, it's from little things from door handles to layouts of rooms and so forth. And when you go into the new science labs, you're going to see 2 of them raise and lower, because if we ever have a student who's in a wheelchair and they're in the science lab, those lower down to that student in a wheelchair. So, I mean, that facility is up to par in terms of accommodations and regulations. So, but that's really needs to be our mantra going forward, is looking at things from a universal design.
Anybody else? Okay. It was moved and supported. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Boosters, thank you for your help. Athletic boosters, thank you for your assistance with making it happen.
Wednesdays, 7 o'clock, 4th Wednesdays of the month, or 3rd Wednesdays of the month. For booster meetings at Tim Hortons, great coffee there. Oh. Second Wednesday.
Second Wednesday, 7:30.
Next, motion to go into closed session for a student discipline hearing would be in order.
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are going to go into closed session. Brian, you have...
We're going to go down to the room, with choir room down here. It's a larger space rather than the conference room.